All right, welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're taking a completely unfiltered look at the psychology of trading. And whether you're a total novice just trying to figure out the markets or a seasoned veteran, there's a fascinating paradigm shift that we're going to explore today. We're talking about the absolute necessity of mastering your internal market. Because really, this is the exact concept that separates the traders who continuously evolve from the ones who just stay stuck in an endless cycle of frustration. So let's jump right in.
Every trader who's ever struggled has their go-to list of villains. You've probably spoken these exact words, or, let's be honest, at least thought them. My brokers slipped me. The spread was ridiculously wide. The market is just completely manipulated by the big guys. We point fingers at these external factors first, almost instinctively, the very second a trade goes sideways.
And the list just goes on. It was that unexpected news event that wrecked the chart. It's the high-frequency trading algorithms. Or it's that giant whale who moved the market 3 seconds before your stop got hit. Now, let's be totally clear here, and our source material absolutely acknowledges this. Sometimes these things are entirely real. The spread really was wide. The news actually did drop early. Your stop might have genuinely been hunted. But here is a massive reality check that nobody really wants to say out loud. None of these things opened your trading platform. The broker did not choose your position size. The spread didn't magically move your stop loss further away. An algorithm didn't force you to click the button to open a revenge trade. And that whale, they certainly didn't tell you to double down after a losing streak.
You did, every single time. The market is not the hardest part of trading. We are. And yeah, it's a super uncomfortable reality to face, but honestly, until we do, the actual work of becoming a consistently better trader hasn't even started.
Section 1. The external attribution trap.
So to really understand this trap, we have to look at why our brains are so deeply hardwired to deflect blame. And it's not because we're inherently dishonest people, right? It's actually a matter of psychological survival. This brilliantly illustrates a concept from social psychology known as the fundamental attribution error. It's basically the human tendency to look at other people's failures as a major flaw in their character, while looking at our own failures as just a result of our circumstances. Like when someone else blows up their trading account, we immediately think, well, they lacked discipline. They were reckless. They just don't have what it takes. But when we blow our own account, suddenly the narrative completely flips. Oh, the setup was perfect, but the outcome was totally unfair. The market conditions were completely unusual. See, we blame circumstance, not character. It's a deeply wired cognitive protection mechanism. Your mind is just trying to protect your self-image by locating the failure anywhere outside of yourself.
So, here's the absolute crucial point to take away from this. While externalizing blame successfully protects your ego, it is financially catastrophic. Why? Because trading is a really unique environment. The feedback loop is immediate, it's purely financial, and it is completely indifferent to your excuses. The market absolutely does not care if you blame it. A loss is still a loss. An oversized position is still an oversized position. When you attribute that loss externally, sure, you protect your ego, but you permanently lose the data. And that data, which is the honest answer to what did I actually do and why, that is the literal only thing that can help you identify the patterns that you actually need to fix.
Part 2. The Stoic Reframe.
Okay, so to stop this massive loss of critical data, we kind of need a brand new operating system. We need a framework that leaves absolutely zero room for making excuses. And for that, we're turning to the Stoics. These guys practice complete internal accountability. In fact, their framework practically eliminated the very concept of blame, mostly because blame requires believing that something outside yourself is actually responsible for your actions. Just consider this quote from the ancient philosopher Epictetus. Keep in mind, this is a guy who began his life as a slave, meaning he had literally every external justification in the world to blame his circumstances. Yet he taught this: the event is not within your power. Your response to the event is. Your response is the only thing that is ever truly yours.
Epictetus categorized the world with surgical precision. He said there are things within our power, so our choices, our impulses, and then there are things outside our power. The market, the news, the algorithms, they all fall into a category the Stoics called adiaphora, which basically means indifferent, things that are morally and practically neutral. The market absolutely does not have a vendetta against you. It's not good, it's not bad, it simply is what it is. It's just doing its thing.
And what's really interesting here is how clearly this draws a hard line between what the market does, which is entirely neutral, and the choices that you actively make, which require your complete ownership. The market's behavior? That's adiaphora. But your response? That is definitely not neutral. The position size you typed in? That was yours. The decision to hold a losing trade way past your defined stop loss? Yours. The total abandonment of your trading rules? Yours. Every single time. Now, I want to be super clear here. This isn't about self-punishment or constantly beating yourself up. Epictetus wasn't teaching self-flagellation, right? He was teaching the absolute prerequisite for genuine improvement. You simply cannot change what you do not own. And you literally cannot own a mistake if you've already attributed it to some rogue algorithm or a weird newsprint. You have to own the response, without exception and without that sneaky little caveat of, well, it was an unusual circumstance. Because newsflash, the market is always unusual. If you're waiting for usual circumstances to start taking accountability, you are literally going to be waiting forever.
Section 3. The internal audit habit.
Because accountability isn't just a mindset, it's an action. The source text outlines this really structured 3-step internal auditing framework. And yes, it is definitely designed to be slightly uncomfortable, but it is practically guaranteed to produce the exact data that your ego is constantly trying to hide from you. So here are the 3 steps: the internal attribution rule, the response ownership log, and the weekly ownership review.
All right, step 1 is the internal attribution rule. This happens immediately after every single loss, before you even think about looking at the chart to analyze what the market did. You have to sit down and answer one question in writing. What did I do in this trade that was within my control and could have been done differently? Not what the market did, what you did. And hey, sometimes the honest answer is, I executed my plan perfectly, the loss was totally within parameters, and this is just statistical variance. And that is still internal attribution. The whole point is to look inside first, capturing that real data before your brain has time to cook up some elaborate external excuse.
Moving on to step 2, we have the response ownership log. Think of this as a dedicated section in your trading journal where you ruthlessly log every single decision, your entry, your exit, your position sizing. And then you document the source of that decision. Was this decision rules-based, meaning did it perfectly align with your strategy, or was it response-based? And if it was response-based, what exactly were you responding to? Was it fear? Was it a desperate need to make back a previous loss? A sudden surge in market volatility? Over weeks and months, doing this log is going to reveal your completely invisible emotional triggers. It highlights the specific market conditions that cause you to just abandon your rules. Because, let's face it, you can't fix a pattern that you can't see, and this exercise makes the invisible completely visible.
And then we hit step 3, the weekly ownership review. Once a week, you're going to ask yourself one simple written question. Of every single trading outcome this week, what percentage was I absolutely responsible for? And you are aiming for a brutally honest number here. Is it 50%, 80%? As you practice this over months, a really massive shift starts to happen. As that number approaches 100%, as you claim total unconditional ownership of your outcomes, your capacity to actually change those outcomes just skyrockets. Because, again, you can only influence what you completely own.
Section 4. Complete ownership.
So, it's time to bring this all together and face the final accounting of our own trading behavior. I really want to leave you with this lingering, somewhat provocative question from our source material. Think back, right now. Of your last 5 trading losses, how many did you attribute primarily to something outside yourself? And of those, what was the internal component, the actual choice you made, that you completely failed to examine? Find it, write it down, own it, and not because you're at fault, but because you are entirely capable of change. And true capability requires absolute ownership. The market is going to keep being the market. The only variable that actually responds to your development is you. So, develop accordingly.